Club. Barry McGuigan joins us now. Barry, a very good morning.
Morning, Barry.
Good morning, Alan. Good morning, Ronnie.
Barry, first of all, I don't want to touch on the toe, right? A lot of people want to touch on it, but for me, I want to talk about the fight. His coach is saying, look, he should quit now. I don't see it, Barry, me. At the end of the day, look, on the scorecards, Klitschko fought a great fight. He was a bigger, stronger man with a longer reach, and his game plan was fantastic, and David struggled to deal with that.
Okay.
But Barry, right up to the last round, I'm saying, go on, catch him. Yeah. He wasn't out of the fight. On points he was, but he still had the ability to knock Klitschko out, and he hurt him in the final round.
Well, he hurt him in the 8th round, Alan, but he didn't hurt him in the final round, and he never looked like he could hurt him. Listen, the first thing is, he was comprehensively beaten in every department. Mm-hmm. He didn't win the fight because he didn't fight the right tactics. He didn't come forward. He didn't use his jab. He had to do two things that he had never done before. So let's look at that properly. We knew he was going to be outweighed. It wasn't news to us that the guy was 2 stone and 2 pounds heavier at the weigh-in. That was a given. We knew that. The way he had to fight was he had to fight aggressively. He had to fight using his jab. He had to hold his feet in the centre of the ring and take the fight to Klitschko, not back up. I told everybody that at the beginning. If he backed up, he would get hammered, and he might even get knocked out. He didn't do that. He didn't come forward. He didn't look like he wanted to win aggressively. He didn't want to do that. And he was backed up, and he was beaten and completely outpunched. And he never, ever looked like he was going to knock the guy.
That is not hard. I was shouting at the telly, get in there. But
I was screaming at the TV. If they put a camera on me in the studio at Sky, I was roaring my head off.
But I was the same. But then I thought about it afterwards. Klitschko, because of his reach and his height and his weight, I thought David tried to jab him, but Klitschko's jab was.
He didn't do the right thing, and he just didn't use the right tactics. Let's be honest here. I know this business back to front, dead simply. Whatever chance he had of winning, he had no chance backing up. The only way he was going to win was to come forward, but he didn't do that. And I agree with your previous caller. To moan and complain about the toe afterwards was not enough. He was comprehensively beaten, and maybe. And I was wrong. I predicted he would come out of it. He told us he was going to come out of the corner like a bullet. He was going to fight aggressively, and he was going to rip their heads off. Is that right or not?
Yeah,
that's what he said he was going to do.
Absolutely.
He didn't. As soon as the first bell went, he went on the retreat, and he backed up, and he got beaten completely. Yeah. And he was never going to win, because every time he stepped forward, and I said this, what happened was Klitschko took a step back and countered him, and then he just claimed the ground again, and he never done the right thing. But maybe even if he'd have gone forward, he'd have got beaten anyway. And I think if you look at the fight, he didn't have the tools to do it. He wasn't able to do it, and it's as simple as that. And I don't think the foot even mattered. Forget about that.
Would you give him another chance, Barry? Would you give him another chance?
I think it's pointless having another fight, because who would want to pay for it? Look, listen to what all the callers are saying. Don't insult our intelligence. People are.
I'd pay for it. I'd watch him again.
Would you watch it again?
I'd give him another chance.
Well,
definitely.
Me as a boxer, looking at that fight, I don't think he has the tools to win. I don't think he could do it, and I really don't think coming forward would make a difference. He'd walk onto a punch and he'd get knocked out. Maybe in hindsight, when you look at what he was saying and all of the comments that he makes afterwards, hindsight's a great thing. And you look and you think then his body language before the fight, he sold it to me. But maybe when you look at it again, look at the change in the tone of his voice. Maybe, in fact, he was happy to go the distance and not get knocked out. Because I think if he walked on like that, possibly because he's so much superior skill-wise, maybe Klitschko would have knocked him out, and maybe he knew that.
Maybe he sat at home this morning, David Haye, Barry, thinking, do you know what? I've gone in there, I've done 12 rounds.
Yeah.
For me, in my own mind, he sat there thinking...
It's a win.
And you know what? Me not being 100% fit, you know what it's like if you compete against the best in the world, whatever sport it is. If you've got a slight niggle, let alone a broken toe, you're going to struggle, not just from a physical point of view, but a mental point of view as well. Maybe he sat at home thinking... I'd have a miles better chance going against him the second time than the first time.
I don't know that. Look, he was so beaten. He was so comprehensively outpointed. I don't think he would do any better the next time. That's only me as a commentator. I was wrong. I thought he would come forward. I thought he would burst out of the corner and attack and have a chance. But what I think is so difficult for everybody to take is the unmagnanimous way in which he took his defeat. He didn't at any stage say, look, I was beaten by the better man. And I think the general public, if he'd have gone out, raced from the corner, hurt Klitschko and then hurt him again and almost had him out, but in the process got knocked out, they would have thought more of him. He didn't do that, and he didn't have any class after the fight, saying I was beaten by a guy that was better than me in every department. If he'd have said that, I think it would have been much easier for all the people who subscribe to watch him fight. It would have been much easier for them to have taken that. But he didn't do that, and it seemed disrespectful. And we like and expect more from our sports stars.
Barry, thank you. Barry McGuigan, looking back in the fight. I just think, Ronnie, in that last round, look, we know he had to. But by the way, Manny Stewart said to him, Klitschko, didn't he? Was it 3 to go? He said, hey, you're not that far ahead. You've got to do more. So he was still not worried, but he was trying to keep his man on his toes.
Yeah, I think it was
in that last round, mate, them punters who paid the money to go over to Germany, they were still roaring Haye on. And when he threw the right and Klitschko grabbed on, they still believed that he could knock him out. So I don't, it's easy, very easy to say, oh, what a letdown.
Barry felt
but he was against the world champion, a big old lump.
Barry felt he didn't feel that, didn't he? He said he didn't feel that in the last round. He caught Klitschko at all there.
I think he did. Look, Barry's a boxer. He's taking punches and belted people. I'm not, but he definitely rocked him earlier on, and I think he caught him in the last round. I do. It might have not been a clean, how did he stand on his feet? Not one of them, but he definitely caught him, And I just think if he fought him again, it'd be different. I'm not saying he'd win, but I still give him. I'd still watch it. It's a heavyweight. I still think it'd be a big crowd, and I would watch it, and I'd pay Ronnie. I would. Sorry, I'd give him another chance. 8:30.